Mm-hmm. It's finna get good and funny, ain't it? Come on in. Come on in. Now, you had only been there for about 15, 20 minutes. Naturally, Nolans. Yes, indeed, baby. Yes, indeed. I got something in store for them. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Oh, you had only been in for about 10 minutes. Oh, wow. So I'm going to back it up because you can always go and listen to his accolades and where he started out being a part of Homeland Security, well-to-do, multi-millionaire. They had called him for his donations.
I called the National Security Council, and I told them that they're...
Initially, they had called him for donations to fund the operation, and then they said, we need you. We need you to be a part of this operation. So that's how he got into it. He needed to be flashy, real estate tycoon, nicely dressed suits, cufflinks, and had plenty of money. What I didn't get the first time was that he was paying. Oh yeah, it's going to go. I put the link for members only. Um. What I didn't get before that I got this time, so I thought the membership fee like $150,000, $100,000 a year, and I thought that when he was looking at the kids and he said he wanted all of them, I don't know. I thought that he was like making a purchase, but he said it was for like $5,000 or whatever amount he said for 2 hours. And then an extra 10,000 if he wanted the little girls with no mileage. So I mean, what a hustle. He wanted that amount of money for 2 hours. And if they had not been touched or taken advantage of before, then that was an extra 10,000. Wow. Wow. So no wonder Trump wants to send all those little kids unattended by themselves to these foreign countries and just dump them. Dump them. Dump them. Imagine that shit. Imagine that Bitcoins or Trump coins deposit. All the kids that he is trafficking by way of they're not immigrants. And then some of them are legal that are being sent to foreign countries. Okay, let's go. Members only. Members only is about to go into effect.
And we could hear some of the children cry.
I'm backing it up for you.
They were so old, and I look back on my life and I say, I climbed this mountain, and I helped build this multi-billion-dollar company, and I helped rescue this many children from slavery. Which of them
From
matters
slavery.
at all? He said, "You're right, Paul." He said, "If
From slavery.
and when you see some foreigner come and pick her up, and the police aren't doing anything, it would happen all the time." So fortunately, those things have changed now. Colombia is now the shining example of how policies and law changes can make a huge impact in keeping the children safe.
Just a question, Epstein Island, was there any jurisdiction over that island at all? Was there any supervision, any control whatsoever?
It's an interesting question. So back, yes and no, right? They're back at the time, back even 5, 6, 7 years ago, doing my undercover work. If you went to another country or you went to an island or whatever else, and you did something horrible with a 12-year-old, you would have to be prosecuted in that country in order for you to, the only way to be prosecuted in the U.S. at the time is that we would have to prove that you while in on U.S. soil, made the decision to go to that other country to do that horrible thing with that 12-year-old. Some of our people helped to make changes in the law where now you go anywhere in the world and you end up with a 12-year-old in that situation, you can be prosecuted in the United States, even if you're not prosecuted there, even if the laws of that country don't prosecute. And so it's amazing that has happened, because if you go rob a bank in South America, you can't get arrested and go to jail in the U.S. for robbing a bank down there. You have to be prosecuted in that country. But if you go down there, child, absolutely. The very second you come into the U.S., you can get nailed. Even after you finish your sentence, if they did prosecute you down there, you finish your sentence there, you come to the U.S., you get sentenced again here.
And it doesn't have to be a U.S. person that you...
Nope.
And you laughing at
her.
her.
U.S. citizen, and you go
It
anywhere
just
in the
went
world
members only.
and abuse a child. You can get
Is
prosecuted.
that a recent
What do you
law?
mean cut
That's
it a
within
little
the
bit?
last 5+ years. So,
During
super.
Trump?
Huh?
It
During
just
Trump's
went. It just
administration?
went members
During
only.
Trump's first administration.
What you mean
Yeah,
cut it?
For sure wasn't in the last 4 years.
All right, so let me ask you, so now you can rescue 50 children.
Yeah.
And that's what got you...
What you mean?
I
What
said,
you
well,
mean?
what do
Hold
I
on.
need? He said, well, I have to have somebody who can effectively negotiate.
What you mean, members? Cut it. Look, talking with it. Talk with it. You want me to talk with it? Ooh, them numbers so dropped, didn't it? Okay. Ooh.
This transaction with the trackers. He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $50,000 watch and negotiate a
Okay.
multi-million.
So what's happening
But
here?
it's like we're Amazon's best customer here.
I tell people, how does somebody become a partner, let alone...
So this is when he is getting the call to say, hey, we need you. We need you to be a part of this sting. Because it was more kids than he thought was going to be there. And there needed to be some negotiating to get them. Okay, let's go.
a founder of a 20, 30, $40 billion investment fund. You're not a University of Utah dropout, right? That's what I am. Right? The
go there,
statistical
Utah.
probability of me being where I am is 0. The only way that I can understand it is that I made that
There go there,
commitment,
Utah.
that covenant, that promise in my early 20s that I would give until it hurt. In fact, at the time I had that conversation with that mentor, I was earning like $2,000 a month. And I said, well, isn't it better? This is why I want to be wealthy, so I can be charitable. He goes, no. He says, be charitable now. When you're earning $2,000 a month, and that road to success will be so much easier. And I remember thinking, wow, I thought I wanted to be successful so that I could be charitable. I didn't realize I should be charitable so that I could be successful.
So God can
in
bless
every
you.
area of life. And so
He
making
can
that
increase
decision
your
early
territory.
on, now I was very much involved in charities. I remember when I made that decision.
Don't wait
thought,
until
okay,
you
do I just
become
give money
wealthy.
to the guy on the side of the street that's asking me for money? And I did. I remember I had a friend that said, Paul, are you really making a difference? I said, you know what? I can't judge. That could have been me if I wasn't in a healthy home. I said,
Absolutely.
over time, I realized I was contributing to a welfare mentality problem. So over time, I decided to focus fully on children. I was on the Make-A-Wish board of directors for 7 years. I was the incoming chairman for Make-A-Wish in our area when I got that call from the Attorney General. And so he tells me about child trafficking, tells me about
The
these guys.
Attorney General of Utah. The same Utah where Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk. Oh, okay. Where Qatar is building an Air Force base with Donald Trump's permission. Okay.
Needed some money, so I helped to fund that mission. Then a few weeks later, one of the operators called me and he said, "Paul, I'm here in Cartagena. There's not just 20 children here, there's more than 50, and there's more than 100 children in other rings that are tied to these trafficking rings in other cities." He said, "We can rescue all of these 100 children on the same day, but I need your help." And I said, well, how much do you need? He said, "I need you. Could you be in Colombia?"
I don't need your money. I need your presence.
Has a piece of property he wants to develop into a child brothel resort. He needs
Now, a wealthy, elite trafficker wants to buy property to turn it into a hotel, resort, brothel. Okay. Now remember, so I tried to tell y'all earlier, there are patterns, there are likeness, there are a lot of similarities, because we do know Trump grandpapa had a brothel.
a few $1 million to build it out. He believes he can make tens of millions of dollars a year.
But isn't it illegal there? They're allowed to do that?
It's illegal most places in the world.
Yeah.
But
where he wanted to do that?
well, here's the thing.
Hey,
There are
James.
certain countries,
Thank
and
you.
I've been
Welcome.
working in Colombia for the last few years and helping to change laws and policies here. When
Thanks
I was-
for being
when I
a
did
member.
undercover work in Amsterdam, we couldn't find children for sale. Why? Because prostitution is legal, but it is very controlled. Right now, I'm not a fan whatsoever of prostitution. It has killed so many families. However, this is what I wrote to the Senate in Colombia. If you are going to legalize it, it has to be controlled, because if it's legal and to have prostitution and you don't have the girls checking in and having verification of their ages and stuff, it is wrought for opportunities for traffickers to traffic children without consequence.
Got it.
So
But where that
I'm
person
backing it
was
up a little
openly
bit,
wanted
James.
to develop this property and put a brothel there, would he have been allowed to do that in that
not
area?
allowed to do it, but the authorities would have looked the other way.
way.
Yeah, this was an island that he wanted to build it out on, and this was outside of.
Did y'all hear that with y'all good ear? It was an island that he wanted to build it on. Sound like that Epstein, Mar-a-Lago, Star Island stuff. But let's keep listening.
Cartagena, you literally at the time, you could walk down the street, you'd see police officers over there and
There was a
over there, and you knew for sure that was a 12-year-old.
Mm.
And when you see some foreigner come and pick her up, and the police aren't doing anything, it would happen all the time. So fortunately, those things have changed now. Colombia is now the shining example of how policies and law changes can make a huge impact in keeping the children safe.
Just a question, Epstein Island, was there any jurisdiction over that island at all? Was there any supervision, any control whatsoever?
It's an interesting question. So back, yes and no, right? They're back at the time,
Remember, with Epstein Island, you had to get there by boat, and he had cameras all over the place. So whether it was or not, he had it situated, so he thought, where if they were coming, he would get noted. He would get notified with Epstein's Island.
even 5, 6, 7 years ago, doing my undercover work. if you went to another country or you went to an island or whatever else, and you did something horrible with a 12-year-old, you would have to be prosecuted in that country in order for you to, the only way to be prosecuted in the U.S. at the time is that we would have to prove that you while in on U.S. soil, made the decision to go to that other country to do that horrible thing with that 12-year-old. Some of our people helped to make changes in the law where now you go anywhere in the world and you end up with a 12-year-old in that situation. You can be prosecuted in the United States, even if you're not prosecuted there, even if the laws of that country don't prosecute. Mm-hmm. And so it's amazing that has happened, because if you go rob a bank in South America, you can't get arrested and go to jail in the U.S. for robbing a bank down there. You have to be prosecuted in that country. But if you go down there and child, absolutely. The very second you come into the U.S., you can get nailed. Even after you finish your sentence, if they did prosecute you down there, you finish your sentence there, you come to the U.S., you get sentenced again here.
So Epstein should not have gotten a sweetheart deal. Ghislaine Maxwell should not be getting Uber, DoorDash food delivered. Nobody in the kitchen can cook for her. Nobody at the prison. No other inmate can prepare her food. She gets a chef or Uber Eats or DoorDash delivery now. Yeah, right.
Nope. If you're a U.S. citizen and you go anywhere in the world and abuse a child, you can get prosecuted.
Is that a recent law?
That's within the last 5+ years. So
under whose watch? Under whose watch? Can anybody guess what president that law was implemented? The same one who's breaking it right now.
Huh?
During Trump's administration?
It was during Trump's first administration, yeah. It for sure wasn't in the last 4 years.
All right, so
can you believe that?
Now you can rescue 50 children.
Yeah.
And that's what got you.
Yeah, so I said, well, what do I need? He said, well, I have to have somebody who can effectively negotiate this transaction with the traffickers. He said, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $50,000 watch and negotiate a multi-million-dollar real estate deal. These guys are going to see through fake money all day long. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, at the time I got the call, I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I was at a conference with third-generation billionaire families, and I was raising money for my real estate fund, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what kind of outfit do I need? And he goes, just come dressed as a wealthy playboy. And I looked down, and I have a suit that costs more than my first car, right? I've got this conservative blue on the outside, but it's bright pink on the inside. I had a $50,000 watch. I had cufflinks that were $2,000 cufflinks. I'm like, I think I got the outfit, right? Uh-huh. So I jump on a plane, fly to. What was interesting too is,
hey, my friends, a lot of you already know that just a few short months ago I started my
old, and I look back on my life and I say I climbed old, and I look back on my life and I say I old, and I look back on my life and I say I really be happy the rest of your life. And I said, John, would I really be happy if I bought an island, if I bought a yacht, if I bought another jet? I said, would that make me happy? I said, tell me this. If I was doing something else dangerous tomorrow, if I was climbing Everest tomorrow, you and I would have the same conversation. He said, yeah, we probably would. Mm-hmm. I said, and when I'm 95 years old and I look back on my life and I say I climbed this mountain and I helped build this multi-billion-dollar company and I helped rescue this many children from slavery, which of them matters at all? Mm-hmm. He said, you're right, Paul. He said, if your persona, if your skill sets, if that's something they need, he said, I support you. I understand you need to go. I said, even if I can only rescue one child, it would be worth it, right? And so 2 days later, I'm in Colombia, face to face with people sending me children. The interesting thing about it, Michael, was I thought, okay, these guys are going to have tattoos down their neck and 3 earrings in their noses. That's the look. And the first trafficker I met was a business owner. He was clean cut. He had a polo shirt, clean shaven.
I
The
wonder from
second I
where.
met was a beautiful woman that worked with a modeling agency. I thought, these guys aren't trappers.
Just what they met.
Modeling
No,
agency.
no,
Are y'all hearing this? The 7 of y'all that are here. Are y'all hearing this? Modeling agency. Big rich guy. Yeah, it's just too many coincidences.
they were there working together with different, you
But
know.
I'm saying neither one of them had a family.
No, but yes, the businessman did.
He did.
In fact, what was interesting is between the time that I first met him and that when the sting went down just a few weeks later, I was texting back and forth with him to make sure
Where
that he
you
was
see
bringing,
200?
all of his inventory, etc., for me to make sure he had, so we could rescue him, right? And
You
one of
lying
my
to me?
one of my texts
Hold
with him,
on.
and I talk about this in the Sound of Freedom
I
book
see
that's coming out,
7
right? He
people.
he sends me a picture of him with his
Naturally
3-year-old
knowledge, you playing with
daughter
me.
in his back seat. Now he wasn't trafficking her yet, but over time most of these traffickers end up trafficking
What are you
kids.
trapped your son's
Absolutely.
daughter?
So many times they end up trafficking their own kids when they get older. He wasn't
He
trafficking her yet, but
refreshed.
what
He
said, this is
refreshed.
so
That was
interesting.
probably
He
what
said-
it
he
was
sent me a
before
text, and he
I
said-
switched it
After
over.
he had sent me that picture, and I was just appalled.
Yeah.
He said, Pablo, they call me Pablo. He said, Pablo, he said, I'm showing you my picture of her so you know why I'm
It was 200 in here when I switched over. Let me know.
doing all of this. I want to buy her Ferraris and make all this money for her. He said, I believe that God sent you to me. And what was going through my head is, you're right. God did send me,
Yeah.
right? So I can make sure that that child in your back seat never. I'm showing you my picture of her so you know why I'm doing all of this. I want to buy her Ferraris and make all this money for her. He said, I believe that God sent you to me. And what was going through my head is, you're right. God did send me,
Yeah.
right? So I can make sure that that child in your back seat never has to go through what these children are that you're trying today.
Did you tell him that?
No, of course I didn't.
Later on? My gosh. What kind of people are these? They got children. And
People
they
who
got
play with
other
God.
children, maybe their own.
Well, and
I'll tell you what we would have done with them. I don't know if you know my background.
oh yeah, I do know your background, and that's what I felt I wanted to do. I was that very first meeting with these guys. I'm sitting there. I've got a Navy SEAL that's standing behind me. He's my real bodyguard and my show bodyguard, right? And he's standing behind me, and one of the leans forward and he goes, Pablo, he said, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? This is our very first meeting where we're negotiating this party. I'm telling him, listen, I'm willing to fund your project under one condition. We're going to have a party in about a week. You're going to bring all your existing inventory. If I'm happy with what I see, I'll fund your resort. We had to get him to bring all of their children to one place at one time so we could
So
rescue
did
them.
he think you were buying them for your own personal use, or whatever you were going to do?
I told him I was giving him $500 per child just for 2 hours in the afternoon with them. That's
2
what I was
hours.
paying him, right? But really, it was just so that we could get him to
them all
call the
together.
other truckers, get them to bring all the children together.
That was the scene in the movie.
Yeah, exactly,
okay.
exactly. And so he was so excited I was willing to do that. He says, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? And he hands me his phone. And there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, this is Princess. She's still a...
She still look.
He said, he started talking
Urgent.
about horrific things I could do to this little girl. And I said, if we could help rescue these kids before they're ever trapped in the first place, that would be a miracle. And then something he said made me realize he had more than her. I said, wait, I said, you say you just took delivery of some? I said, do you have more versions? He goes, oh yeah, I got 3 or 4 more. I said, you're bringing those to my party too, right? He goes, oh no. He says, they're too expensive. I said, too expensive? I'm already paying this guy $25,000. I'm paying him $500 per child just for that time. I said, he said, Jefe, you already paid $25,000. He said, you want to, those other, it's going to cost you maybe $2,000, maybe $5,000 for that little one. It's going to cost you maybe $10,000 more. Now at this point, Michael, I am legitimately pissed. No acting involved. He's talking about these children like they're commodities. I've got my my really nice suit, $50,000 watch. I put my hands on my chest and I said, "You don't think I can afford an extra $10,000?" He said, "Oh no, Jefe, no." I said, "I want every one of those at my party." I said, "They damn well better be when they get there. They're not for you. They're for me. You understand?" He goes, "Oh yeah, Jefe, I understand." This stupid smile on his face. Now, the Navy SEAL that was behind me cleared his throat, and he was, I didn't check out the restaurant, make sure everything is safe. Later in debriefing, he said, "You know what?" He says, "That little girl on that phone looked like my daughter at home." He said, "I almost unholstered my weapon and shot him right there."
Probably had all to do to hold back.
Yeah, he said, but I knew if I did, he said, we would lose all those other kids.
Right.
And now in the movie, my character is Pablo
Wow.
Delgado, the billion-dollar fund manager who quits his
Let me,
job to go
this
rescue
movie
kids.
originated with all of what you've done?
In the Sound of Freedom movie, we
Yeah.
took 8 different rescue missions and put them all together into one storyline. So we kind of put a lot of attention on Jim Caviezel's character. The truth is there was a lot of other operators that did some of those things. We just put all those stories together, right? And the truth is, and you read about this in the Sound of Freedom book, where the jungle was not even in Colombia. That was in Haiti. That was looking for a little boy, not a little girl. There was, a lot of other operators went in dressed as doctors on different operations, etc. But the story, all those stories really happened. They just didn't happen as we showed it in the movie. But that first rescue mission, the Jim Caviezel's like, only way I can pull this off is if I can convince Pablo to help fund it and be down here. Well, I'm Pablo in real life. I was running a multi-billion-dollar investment fund. I had a special set of skills from a previous life that makes me somewhat safe in a dangerous place. I was a rich playboy full of ego and pride and arrogance and lust. That's what the looking for, right? And so and in the movie, Jim Caviezel's like, he gives a picture of this 11-year-old girl to my driver, and that's what convinced me to go. In real life, I was already there. I was face to face with these traps, but him showing me the picture of that 11-year-old galvanized my commitment to help fund this, whatever I needed to do. Now, fast forward 2 weeks later, we're at this island.
I would not let
trappers brought
it
54 children. Now we had 3 separate
would
cities
not
at the same
let
time. A
it
total of
lose
over
this
120 children
They would
that were
have
at these
to
3
be
separate
members
cities with
of
these simultaneous operations going on. I was there in Cartagena. We're sitting there at this island. These guys bring 54 children. Almost every one of them were under the age of 16
Because
years
the
old.
reality
Some
of
them
it
were
is
from other
this is what's really going on right now. We just did not know how intense and how big it is. This is somewhat of this immigration, grabbing these people and sending them to foreign islands. I mean, yeah, sending them to foreign locations. And when they had that, I don't know if it was 600 or 6,000 kids on, it was probably 600 that they had on a helicopter or a military plane, and they were about to send them to some foreign country, and the judge stopped it. But he still moves at night. So those kids are probably gone. So this is what's going on right now. And this is bizarre because it was Trump first administration with Ivanka. I remember that law went in, but he was already a part of a trafficking. And remember, if you don't forget nothing, remember Epstein told Michael Wolff, that it was Trump who introduced him to the trafficking side of it. Right. They just be going to foreign places. They don't go back to where they came from. No, they go to places where, because at first one of the locations was Venezuela. And he had started sending people over to Venezuela. Something happened with that guy that he sent that wasn't supposed to be sent. And he broke the law and sent him over there anyway. And they was telling him to send him back, and Trump was saying, "Oh, I I don't have any authority over there. And once they made contact with the people over in Venezuela, they said that yes, he do. We just waiting to hear back from him. And then all of a sudden, shortly after that, he started bombing Venezuela. So this is what's going on right now.
countries. We put them in a separate place of the house because they're already traumatized enough. We don't want them seeing the guns and the money changing hands, etc. I'm sitting there on this chair, negotiating with these on their business plan. Hidden cameras capturing our entire conversation so they couldn't come out later and say, oh, I thought the kids were coming to a pool party. No, you said exactly why she was there, exactly what she was willing to do. And this was a dark conversation, probably even too dark for your audience. This was a dark conversation talking about exactly what they do to these children, what they're willing to do, what they're paying them, everything, what they're forcing them to do, etc. And so and then halfway through this meeting, one of the traffickers gets up and he said, Pablo, I have to show you the gifts that I brought you. This is the moment that changed my life. He went in the house where the children are. He was there for about 10 minutes, and we could hear some of the children cry. They were so scared of coming out and meeting the men who were supposed to. And pretty soon they came out, and they had 4 scared to death. They had 3 little girls, old, and 1 little boy. This little boy was 11. He was taken from Haiti. He was given that morning because he was so scared it was going to hurt. I mean, what kind of monster thinks that that's attractive? Every cell in my body wanted to just hug these kids and say, "You're going to be fine. You're going to see your parents again." I couldn't say that.
They would have the. They normally gave this little boy
and this little boy
cocaine.
And one of the girls was the same one he showed me on that picture
because of the pain.
And she's standing in front of me, and she had red hair with braids down the back. Her shirt had a little kitty cat on it. She was 11. And her face had makeup on it that had been scared.
She had makeup on.
She was so scared of this moment. She thought that this was it. And everything in me wanted to just say, no, it's not going to happen. You're going to be fine. You're going to see your parents. I couldn't say that. I took her little hands. I'm sitting down. She's standing up, and we're eye level. And I said to her, I said, "Como te llamas? What's your name?" She didn't answer. It's because her real name probably wasn't Princess, right? She was trying to figure out what the traffickers wanted her to say, and I just said, "Está bien. It's okay." I couldn't blow our covers. The agents hadn't come to arrest everybody. We were still sitting there in the middle of all these traffickers, and I said to the traffickers, I said, "It's not time for the."
A whole bunch of traffickers had came to bid, to look. So remember that picture I had with all the wolves in there. I keep trying to tell y'all, and they had all those little girls like dancing around, just being little girls, and all those manly wolves was just sitting there looking and smiling. Yeah, they was picking.
Party to start.
Choosing.
There was a delay. The delay in the movie wasn't because all the kids were there. They were already there. The delay was because some of the Child Protective Services people weren't there with the kids. And so I said, take them back in. We still need to negotiate our deal. And I'm trying to figure out how to delay so that they're not having these kids come out and be traumatized like that. And I said, you know what? I said, you've just proven to me that you can do what you said you would do. This is the inventory you said you had. I said, why don't, if you bring out these kids, you bring out this, I'm gonna have a great time. I'm gonna be fucked up for the next few days. Why don't we pencil our deal right now? I was simply trying to delay until the agents came. I had to bring out a notebook and a pen, and I started taking notes about a business plan. And I had negotiated hundreds of business plans in my career. This was second nature to me. But this one was like no other. When the inventory, when the product his children, the conversation gets really, really dark, really quickly. And I was delaying with this. Finally, the agent still hadn't come. And I said, I had this one last stroke of genius, really was God just saying, Paul, this is what you should say. I said, you know what? I said, and the conversation had gotten so dark, that I couldn't even breathe.
I cannot
Because of what they
imagine.
were talking about. It was literally a business plan about what you do to the kids and where you get them and how you, all of this stuff. And I couldn't even breathe. It was getting so dark. So
I just got
said,
finished
guys,
with a movie like that.
I'm willing to do this.
And they were allegedly renting them to you for a couple hours.
Yeah.
That's all this was.
Yeah, that's all it was. But it was for the purpose of me funding this resort for them so they could build out this business. And I said, look,
Yes.
you've proven to me all this stuff.
Yes. So this was the part of the negotiation for them to build this child trafficking brothel resort. Yeah, the plan is to build these towers, Trump towers, Epstein, New World Order, BB, Palestine, Gaza, the strip, that's what they gonna turn. It was on Netflix. Yeah, this is what some of the negotiation is.
You brought inventory, you brought what we were looking for. I said, I'm willing to do this. I said, but I want 55%. You guys take the other 45. And I said, I looked at this Edouard guy. I said, you're providing the land and you put most of this together. I think you should get 30%. The rest of them can split 15%. There was a bunch of other traffic there. And they started arguing. I thought, oh, good. We can stop talking about this business plan for a minute. And they started yelling at each other. I said, you know what, you guys figure out what that's going to be, and we'll put it here. And it was an argument for almost 10 minutes. Finally, boom, the agents came, stormed the island, arrested everybody, us included. Bad guys think that we got extradited to the U.S. to stand trial. And at that point, they had taken the truckers off. We were laying there in the sand. I went into this other part of the house where I could get my bags and stuff. And at that point, the Child Protective Services people were in with the children. And to calm them down, they were laughing and singing with the children. And compared to the I heard half an hour before, that laughing and singing, that sound of freedom was the most beautiful sound that I ever heard. And I started crying. I turned to the agent that was with me. I said, bro, I spent my whole life making money, making rich people richer. I want to make a difference. I had a Lamborghini Aventador that I was going to buy that spring. I said, I'm not going to buy that car. I want to write the check instead. I said, what do you need? And he said, Paul, I can't teach my Navy SEALs how to wear a $50,000 watch to negotiate a deal like this. He said, sadly, it's guys like you who are the demand. He says, it's the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, guys with big egos and big money.
The Jeffrey Epsteins
of the world. Don't take it wrong, but you're exactly what they're looking for. He says, if you're willing to be the bait, I'll change your whole life.
Who is this that said that?
This was one of the operators that was down there. One of the homeless.
Let me ask you this, though. They take the kids. Do they bring them back to their parents?
Depends.
And who's to say that they don't get tried again?
They're getting. Well, see, that's the problem. In Southeast Asia, in Thailand, more than half the children that we rescued were sold by their own families. You can't put them back in that situation. I was in Thailand just a few months ago, working with one of our sister foundations, with the Child Liberation Foundation. We had some others over there working with it. One of them, there was a family there that the mom wasn't working, the dad wasn't working. You know why? Because the 10-year-old could make more money if they were selling her in the brothel, and they figured she could be the breadwinner for the family. They could just sit at home.
What kind of people are these? God. And you mentioned
Sick.
all these other countries, South America and all these other countries. Does any of this originate in the United States?
A lot of it does.
Originates. In other words, families here are selling their children,
Yeah.
or letting their children go in the States.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is this is why it's so important that you have a relationship with your kids where they tell you when Uncle Harry's touching them, or the babysitter's showing a porn, or the neighbor's friend, his old brother is taking pictures of whatever. This happens all the time. And there's things in the U.S. that parents need to be aware of that you would call it sex online, where you might have a 13-year-old daughter in your home, and she's online, she's chatting, thinking that she's with another 13-year-old boy. He's got pictures of him, and he sends a picture of himself, and now send me one of you. Well, it's not a 13-year-old boy, it's a 38-year-old dude, right? And boom, she sends something, and then he uses that as a manipulation. Needs more, all the way to the point where if you don't do this, I'm going to send this all over your school. And she's in this situation where she's either going to commit, or she needs to tell you as a parent. So you need to be her 911 and say, listen, I don't care if you did some stupid shit. You come to me if somebody's ever trying to put you in this situation, because it's happening a lot. And they're pushing it to the point where they're saying, okay, now you need to meet at this place after school every day.
And there's really no way legally to control this. It has to be controlled from within the home. Because legally, I mean, this is going to continue online. There's no way to stop it.
Well, and here's something that's an interesting legal twist, is there are apps called new apps. There are different types of new apps that guys on this thing don't get any ideas, because you're going to lose your family
apps.
And you'll go to jail. If you try to nudify a child, that is child porn
This
that you
is why we
created,
need to
right?
talk
But indeed, these apps,
to
this
our
AI is
children.
incredibly
Don't be
good
afraid to tell you
you can
anything.
take a celebrity
Absolutely.
and boom, take the clothes
No
off
matter
that
what
picture.
they say.
And it looks incredibly realistic. And so some predators are using this on your 14-year-old. She may not have any pictures anywhere. She's never done any with anybody. But if her social media is wide open and you haven't controlled it, in my opinion, if you've got a 14-year-old, she's welcome to have a social media with friends only seeing her, that isn't open to the general public. But let's say that it's open and you've got predators that are looking at your 14-year-old. They could literally take her picture off of the internet. Boom, use this app, take off her clothes. Boom, send her an email or a text from an anonymous text saying, this is what I have of you. If you don't want it all over the school, you're going to send me some more, or you're going to do this, etc. This is happening a lot.
And these people get off on seeing a picture of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you this. Back to the movie Sound of Freedom. I know you were the main financer of the movie.
I was the primary investor.
Primary
So
investor.
I was the first money in. We got some bigger ones that came later, which included the Carlos Slim family, the Walmart family, and
Mel
the
Gibson.
DiGiorio family. But I was the very first money in. I funded it all up until production.
But did it originate from you? Did you create?
No, there was a lot of operators, including the Homeland Security agent that had first called me.
Mhm.
That we went into Sony and Lionsgate and Paramount with the story. I went with him on those.
Mhm.
They wanted to do something with it, but they wanted full control over it. They wanted to have the control where they could have put my character and Jim Caviezel in a gay scene in the middle of the movie, and we couldn't do anything about it. Right? We wanted to have the right message out there, and so the entire script was written at my family cabin. We brought in these guys. In fact, I was the one that originally found the producer and director. I was at a Grammys after party here in Los Angeles. It was a rock against child. I talk about this in the Sound of Freedom book too, details of how it all came about. The rock against child. I had Pierce Brosnan was there. The former president of Mexico was there. A bunch of others, and one of them was Eduardo Verástegui. Eduardo now plays me in the movie. He's the producer of Sound of Freedom. He's the Mexican actor, and he had just finished a movie called Little Boy. It's about faith. It's a beautifully done film, taking a delicate subject and just doing a beautiful job on it. And I met him there. I previewed that movie. I thought, these are the guys. We called them, our Mexico team. And so I brought them in and then introduced them to that Homeland Security agent. We talked about that and a bunch of other rescue missions, brought them into our cabin, had them there for a week or two just to write all the script of it, and off to the races.
So you were the major force in developing the project.
I was a big part of that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
And Jim, how'd you get to Jim? Was he something you had in your head?
No. We actually had we put the script out to Hugh Jackman, out to we had a handful of other actors that actually turned us down in the beginning.
Really?
I think now they're looking back and going, oh, we should have done something there. But Jim, we were in New York, and at the Phantom of the Opera, and one of the main actors in Phantom of the Opera in the Broadway in New York was friends with Jim. And we had some conversations with him, myself, some of the other operators, and he said I can get this in front of Caviezel, and it was a perfect fit.
Yeah.
You know, Jim did a fantastic job.
I'd love to sit with him, by the way, if you ever happen to talk to him. You know, it'd be great. Even because of the movie Passion of the Christ. He was so
Such a good job.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, he.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Let me go back a little bit about you personally. Very wealthy guy, a lot of success, billions, airplanes. I can relate a little bit, not to your extent, but I did okay at one point in time. And you said ego and all this kind of stuff that goes with the money, and then something happened along with this mission that you were on with the children, and it was kind of a personal transformation. Explain that.
This is gonna rock everybody's boat here.
Let's
This
do
is
it.
powerful. So, it was almost 2 years into undercover work, and I was there as this wealthy playboy, and we were bringing in traffickers because I was that energy. I was never doing anything illegal or never attracted to minors, but I was filled with lust and envy and greed and whatever, and I had we were blowing through our undercover operators. I had Green Berets with 300 missions in Afghanistan, the Middle East, and they already had some PTSD, but one mission with me, undercover, to find children and sing a menu with what the children would do.
A menu.
They blew them. So we were losing operators.
When you say menu, did they actually describe what activity these children would
Yeah, they would
perform?
have a picture of the child. They would say, okay, if you want, whatever, and what the prices were on all of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So just that would they would call them menus. They go through the pages and stuff. And so I had Green Berets, big tough, seeing the darkest part of everything, seeing that, and they're like, I can't. They couldn't survive it.
I don't know, Paul. Every conversation I've ever had in my life. this is-
Wow.
I can't. It blows your mind. It really does. I can
Wow.
imagine. I can't even imagine. I don't know if I could have done what you've done. I mean, thinking, okay, I got to rescue these kids, and I understand that's what your whole focus was. God, to be able to sit there with these animals.
It was horrific, and it created a lot of extra trauma for me and my
absolutely.
operators. Andy had done
Wow.
22 missions with me. Jimmy had done 13.
How many did you do altogether?
I did over 70.
Wow.
Yeah, I did over 70 missions in 15 countries over a period of 10 years. And Andy and Jimmy together called me. And they said, Paul, do you trust us? And I said, yeah, I literally trust him with my life. I undercover, I'm in charge of talking, they're in charge of making sure I don't die. And I said, yeah, I trust you with my life. They said, you need to come to this healing retreat. I said, I don't need to heal. And Paul Hutchinson, everybody wants to be me. They said, no, you're in your second marriage, headed for a divorce. Your kids don't talk to you. You think that, your happiness is going to come from these parties and the girls and everything else. They said, you need to heal. And they said, this will be the most transformational experience of your life. And I said, no, that's saying something. I know Tony Robbins personally. I literally have walked across coals with him right there by my side, right? I've done transformational things. You can't tell me that this is going to be the most transformational experience of my life. They said, yeah, this doctor helps people break through anxiety, depression, PTSD, addictions, childhood trauma within a very short period of time, like a matter of days. And I said, now I'm calling BS on that. I said, I don't know if you know this, but my early 20s, my first successful company, I sold at 29 years old. I sold it for $20 million. Now, most of it was restricted stock, but that was a lot of money at that age. And that's what we did. I had 50,000 people a month calling in off of
He didn't think he
infomercial
needed
to get
help.
help with these things. We had a cognitive restructuring program that took us 12 weeks with a personal coach, 1 to 2 hours a day, to help people break free of debilitating anxiety and depression. You can't tell me that you can get this done in a few days. You just can't do it. And then they said, well, she is a master at the proper use of psychedelics. And I'm like, well, now you're off the, because I grew up in a community in Utah where we couldn't drink alcohol, tea, tobacco, anything like that. So, and for sure, if it was a Schedule 1 drug, I was under the impression that things like psilocybin were more dangerous than cocaine. The truth is, psilocybin in mushrooms is safer than table sugar.
Really?
There's never, ever been a case of addiction. There's never been a case of overdose. And when used properly with a trained facilitator, can create more long-term change in a matter of days than 10 or 20 years worth of therapy. And here's the reason behind it. I have now become a master facilitator. I have hosted and facilitated almost 80 guided meditation, plant medicine healing experiences over the last 8 years since then, right?
Is that what you call it? What would you call it?
I call them retreats or journeys, right? What some people do, but we don't just do a one-night journey. We do a 7-day, fully immersive transformational experience. And because we can't do them in the US, they're still illegal here. Eventually they're going to decriminalize them here, so we're doing them in South America. And so what happened to me on that first experience, Michael, it was the most beautiful, horrific experience of my life. Horrific because what the medicine did for me is it took me into a state of pure empathy. I felt
Trump
every
needs
cell
that.
of my body. I could feel the pain that my children felt when I cheated on their mom. And it was so dark, and it was so heavy. And then I could feel the joy of the children that we had rescued and back
I
to
know
their
some
parents,
other
as
people
if
who
I
need it
was
too.
them. It was so beautiful. And then I felt the pain of the family that I broke apart because some guy was at my party and slept with a cheerleader, and now he broke up his marriage. And the ripple effect of my words and my actions on all of humanity, and anything that I did, I could feel as if I was them. And it was so transformative for me. And then is what happened. The facilitator. Now, what happens is your mind is in a state of neuroplasticity, similar to for about 6 hours.
That long?
Yeah, for about 6 hours. Now, this is a ceremonial dose. This is something where you need help to go to the bathroom type thing, right? And but neuroplasticity is what happens when you're a child. When you're 3 and 4 years old, you can learn 3 or 4 languages at the same time. You're very, very impressionable, and you're creating new neural pathways. So the psilocybin creates a temporary state of neuroplasticity, which is very impressionable, which is why it's incredibly dangerous to go to a rave party and go get high with your friends. Because if you're in a state of neuroplasticity and there's rap music going over here and an orgy going over here and somebody yelling at their wife over here, you're in this state of hyper sensitivity where things get impressioned into your subconscious mind. Well, as a child at 3, 4, 5 years old, in that state of neuroplasticity, if you get abused by an uncle or whatever, a lot of times that goes into your subconscious and it sticks there and you don't even remember it. Yet it's guiding your life in anger, low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, addictions, etc. And so imagine that that's something that's stuck in this hardened concrete. You can't break it out of that subconscious mind. But what if you could take that hardened concrete and turn it back into liquid for 6 hours, right? That neuroplasticity state. You can then go in and work on this childhood trauma, work on these negative habit patterns of thought and worry and what if thinking and negative expectations or anger issues, all of these things. If you have a trained facilitator in that neuroplasticity state, you can create miraculous changes in overcoming anxiety, addictions. We have over an 85% success rate using psychedelics and helping people with cocaine and heroin addictions to be able to overcome those addictions with no relapses, which is incredibly powerful. And so Johns Hopkins University is now putting out a lot of new studies on the proper use, facilitated use of psychedelics in trauma therapy, in anxiety, in depression, PTSD, addictions, etc. And the sad thing is that most of us, if we were born any time in the 60s or thereafter, our entire life we've been taught that these things are incredibly dangerous,
Yes.
right? So if you look at a chart and you go on the internet and you type in dangers of alcohol versus psilocybin, one of the pictures you'll get is a chart where it has the most dangerous. It has all these things, every single mind-altering thing, everything from cannabis to cocaine to heroin and everything in between. The most dangerous of all of them, dangerous to self and dangerous to others, the most dangerous of all of them is alcohol.
Really?
Second is crack cocaine. Third is heroin. Fourth is regular cocaine. All the way down at the bottom, very, very bottom with almost zero harm to self and others is psilocybin, because there's never been a case of addiction or overdose. But when used with a trained facilitator, that neuroplasticity state creates a place where you can then take some real deep internal looks of how you're showing up in the world. And one of the things for me, which was, since we talked a little bit about our faith in Christ, the facilitator, knowing that I had left the religion of my youth about 15 years before, knew that one of my intentions was to rebuild that relationship with God. And so, after I had had that experience of feeling that pain and that joy, whatever, and that empathy, I was talking with the facilitator. Now I'm in this beautiful heart-opening space, and I pointed at this statue that I had of Atlas.
What part was the
world on his
wow?
shoulders.
Naturally
And I said,
known.
I feel a lot like Atlas. I've got 4,000 employees. I feel the world on my shoulders. But look, God has made me so strong with my, I have Zeus and Poseidon on either side of him on these statues. And I says, I feel like, those are protecting Atlas because he's holding the world. And the facilitator let me talk. And then she said, Paul, she said, I admire the fact that you're seeing some of those traits in yourself of those Greek gods, but you know as well as I do that those were mythological gods. She said, what about your relationship with him? And she points at a statue of Christ that I had. And I said, I don't qualify for a relationship with him. And
Oh, is this like a truth serum? Does it act like a truth serum?
in a way, you remember everything. You're not going to say stupid things that you don't know you're going to say. You're not going to go shit yourself. You're not going to, whatever. But you're in a very open-hearted, honest space where you can take a real honest look at yourself. And so that honest look at myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't qualify for a relationship with him. And she said, well, why not? I said, well, when I left the church of my youth, I was told by my bishop that until I was rebaptized in that church, I wouldn't have the Spirit of Christ with me. And she said, do you really think that that's true? And I said, well, no. I said, when I do these undercover missions, I feel led, I feel guided to where these kids are. I truly feel that blessing of God in that space. And she said, well, why don't you work on that relationship? So here I am on mushrooms. I can barely walk, and I'm reaching up to try and get the statue off the mantle. And she says, let me help you, Paul. And she helps bring it down. And I sat on the beanbag and held that statue for the next 2 hours. And had the most beautiful, healing conversation with my brother.
Wow.
In that state. And it was incredibly healing for me.
What did
And
you?
so, fast forward, I was talking with the facilitator. Now I'm in this beautiful heart-opening space, and I pointed at this statue that I had of Atlas holding the world on his shoulders. And I said, I feel a lot like Atlas. I've got 4,000 employees. I feel the world on my shoulders, but look, God has made me so strong with my, I have Zeus and Poseidon on either side of him on these statues. And I says, I feel like, those are protecting Atlas because he's holding the world. And the facilitator let me talk. And then she said, Paul, she said, I admire the fact that you're seeing some of those traits in yourself of those Greek gods, but you know as well as I do that those were mythological gods. She said, what about your relationship with him? And she points at a statue of Christ that I had. And I said, oh,
Oh.
I don't qualify for a relationship with him. And
Oh, is this like a truth serum? Does it act like a truth
in a
serum?
way, you remember everything. You're not gonna say stupid things that you don't know you're gonna say. You know, you're not gonna go shit yourself. You're not gonna, whatever. But you're in a very open-hearted, honest space where you can take a real honest look at yourself. And so that honest look at myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't
It's
qualify
kinda-
for a relationship with him. And she said, well, why not? I said, well, when I left the church of my youth, I was told by my bishop that until I was rebaptized in that church, I wouldn't have the Spirit of
In that
Christ
church.
with me. And she said, do you really think that that's true? And I said, well, no. I said, when I do these undercover missions, I feel led, I feel guided to where these kids are. I truly feel that blessing of God in that space. And she said, well, why don't you work on that relationship? So here I am on mushrooms. I can barely walk, and I'm reaching up to try to get the statue off the mantle. And she says, let me help you, Paul. And she helps bring it down. And I sat on the big back and held that statue for the next 2 hours. And had the most beautiful, healing conversation with my brother.
Wow.
In that state. And it was incredibly healing for me. And so, fast forward.
I wonder
we
why
now
his
run
brother-
these retreats.
You actually have a facility?
We have a facility. We bought a place in Latin America where people come in for fully immersive, transformational healing experiences. People can learn more about it on the Liberating Humanity website, where you can learn. And I would encourage everybody to do their own research. You can go do the research on the John Hopkins studies, etc., on the proper use, and have a facilitator who understands breath work and meditation to help you break through.
That facilitator is obviously trained.
Yes. Yeah. And we do training for facilitators down there at the property.
Oh,
People
wow.
from all over the world are coming here now.
Because
My
now it
primary
gets too
focus
deep.
in the ones that I'm a part of are royalty and world leaders, and
Especially
and
if you don't have
families.
Christ.
I bring them what I call the tip of the umbrella influencers, because if I can help them, I have a lot of big podcasters even come in. If I can help them release those heavy traumas that are still, skeletons in their closet, if I can help them find a way to lead from a place of the heart, if I can help mend their relationship with their spouse, with their children, if I can help
But it
them
looked
break
like
free of the addictions that are still lingering in their life.
It looked like God used him to go to those foreign places. And it looked like, I don't know what you did in the past, but it appeared that God was working on his heart and mind. He had compassion for these kids and what he saw them going through. So God was still working a work in him. But it sounded like he had to come to Jesus moment. Let's go.
If I can do that, then that tip of the umbrella aspect, it rains down and it spreads out to thousands and thousands of others.
Well, do you find that these type of issues are prevalent with people, wealthy people in power?
Everybody's got problems they don't like. I will say that there's a special new set of problems when you've got wealth and power and money that adds to ego and greed and lust. But sadly, almost everybody deals with anxiety, depression, addictions. I bring guys into my retreats and I say, guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, I already know y'all. You don't even have to tell me. Over 90% of you either currently has or within the last 2 years has had an addiction to pornography. Most of you aren't even telling your wife about it. That's okay. We're going to fix it today. Right? We're going to work on that. We're going to take you into this state of neuroplasticity. We're going to help you really feel the pain that you're causing your family, even if you think it's a victimless crime. The fact that it's taking away from your ability to truly show up energetically, emotionally, and intimately with your spouse, it's affecting her. And you're going to go into a place where you're going to feel that as if you're her, and it's going to hurt, but I'm going to help you break through those addictive behaviors. So
Is it mostly men that you're treating?
it's men that we help. What we do in that section, we'll take the men and the women apart, and I sit down with the men and I talk to them about their problems with their addictions, and the gals will talk to the women about their problems with anxiety and depression, and how their their perfectionist stuff. There's a lot of issues that they deal with separate from us, and then we put them into this experience and work with them for the next few days.
Wow.
Amazing. Well, let me ask you this.
Awesome.
The movie Sound of Freedom, brilliant. Obviously, you played a huge role, like we discussed. Now you have a book coming out, Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
I expected it would be much more detailed, a lot more information, and this is coming from you. You're the author,
Yes.
correct? Want to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the movie, you go to the movie, it is simply there to create awareness, right? But you come away from it without a lot of tools as a husband, as a father, as a mother, and so the Sound of Freedom book, there's 4 different sections. The first section, the first 4 or 5 chapters, is titled the Making of an Undercover Operator, but it talks about learning situational awareness and hand-to-hand combat and the charity side of things and all of these things, and there's a lot of information in there that parents can use to keep their kids safe, because these were the things that I learned that kept us safe in a dangerous place. So that's to keep them safe in a dangerous place. And then, of course, the next section is all about the rescue mission in Colombia, the island, and lots of details there, but a lot more in terms of the emotional transformation that I went through in seeing that and what motivated me to come to this new place in my life. And then the third section is about the doctors in a jungle, talking about the details of that. And then the last section is all on healing humanity. Now I have your attention. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how do we heal through this? How do we identify, you talked about earlier, how do we identify when this stuff's going on? Very clear things that you as a parent can look for to identify when these challenges are happening, when your child might be in danger or whatever else, and how to help them heal. Because again, if you've got a deep wound and it's getting infected, if you can clear that out immediately, yeah, you might have a scar, but you can fix it. Right. If you don't, if you cover it up and say, that child's told don't talk about this and whatever, and you hold that down and you don't get them the love, the help, the healing that they need, and it comes out many years down the road. And anxiety and depression and addictions and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the book, I'm sure, is going to go out to the general public, but I think the Attorney General and people in power should see this too, because it'll probably be a Bible as to how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Both in a mission, standpoint, and also if you've been a victim of it, so how to prevent it.
Yes.
I'll tell you, Paul, it's. I don't know if I've ever had a conversation like this before. I really mean it. It's horrific. What you're doing is obviously extremely admirable and necessary, and as a parent, I appreciate it. Just as a human being, I appreciate it, and I know my audience will.
Okay. Yeah, I'm finna get ready to end on this. It's almost over. Now I do have another one where he talks to somebody on the Diddy end. I was sold into an elite pedophile network. Oh, Lord. Hold on.
My name is Annika Lucas, and I primarily identify myself as a survivor of child sex trafficking. I grew up in Belgium, and my family was quite normal from the outside. Father, mother, and 2 children, boy and girl. This was my stepfather. My mother actually had me when she was single. My stepfather was the mayor of the village. And so we were not poor. Growing up for me is in the first years, I had a caretaker when my mother was single, and I was being brought to a caretaker every day. I loved her, she loved me, and I was actually very outgoing as a toddler. this caregiver, being in Brussels, which is a bilingual town, was French speaking, so I actually started speaking French, not Flemish. Even though I was being abused by my mother at the time, I was also very outgoing, very bossy, little girl. And then when my mother married, when I was 4 years old, I shut down very much. I lost the woman who loved me, who was like a real mother to me. And we moved to Flanders. I learned Flemish. But this was the beginning, the onset really of where I was starting to get groomed to be taken into the trafficking network. So I believe that
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, y'all, we'll tap back into this tomorrow. I'm not sleepy, but I don't know. Let me do a little research. Oh, wow. Groomed. 4. Wow. Thank y'all. Natural knowledge, you say keep this on members only. Is that what you said? Thank you, James. I didn't have to keep saying hit the like button, hit the like button. We just kind of roll with it. Huh? I don't know. That felt kind of good. I ain't gonna even lie. But I'll be back. As she said, yes. Okay, I'll be back. I got some more stuff cooking. Good night.